And welcome to episode 107 of the TechnoBuffalo Show. I'm one of your two hosts for today, Sean Ani, Director of Operations, and I'm joined by Executive Editor Todd Hazelton.
Hey, everybody.
How are you doing today, Todd?
I'm good.
Good, good. Yes, it's been a minute since we were last year, since I decided to go on vacation.
Yeah. Don't
Silly
do
me.
that.
And just a quick life update. Todd's already aware of this story. Vacation was awesome. I had a great time in the UK. Then I got back to the US, and reality decided to quickly slap me back
Yeah.
into the world. I got delayed at O'Hare for 9 hours, and then got to Kansas City to find my car had been broken into. But here's the funny story. As we've commented on this show many times, I drive a 99 Tahoe. Older car, has had many years of life. They found my hidden spare key, removed it from where the hidden spare key was, placed it elsewhere, and then took the thing that the key was in because it had loose change in it, which says to me, yeah, we found your key, but even we don't want this old car.
Which is hilarious. Or
Yeah,
they were like, okay,
that part
we're
made
petty.
me laugh.
We don't want Grand Theft Auto under our belts here. We just want to break into cars.
Yeah, we'll just break into the car, but we're going to leave you the 99 Tahoe.
Right.
Oh, good times, good times. But there's a lot to go over this week. And, usually the holiday period is so quiet, and there's like a ton of news going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot. And then, some of it is like, I'm starting to wonder, like, for example, one of the things we were talking about was Digits, T-Mobile Digits that was announced yesterday. And I don't know if we'll jump into that just yet, but some of these announcements were things that I think sometimes were saved for CES, right? And now with, companies have sort of pulled back a little bit. So they're not making announcements at CES. It seems to be either beforehand or maybe after or just a change, sign of the times kind of a little bit, it seems like.
CES is changing a lot. You and I have discussed this in the past. I mean, CES is definitely not the show it was even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's been interesting to watch it more. For instance, we're sending a smaller team this year. I will not be attending CES this year. And that's partially due to my change in role at the company, but also, we're just sending a smaller team. It's been interesting. I'm really not sure what you would qualify CES as anymore.
Yeah, it's different. And actually, I think the New York Times yesterday had a story about like the gadget apocalypse, like the death of gadgets almost. Because you look around, and I don't think I necessarily agree, but like GoPro's struggling. Obviously, Pebble is sort of gone now. And I think people are sort of like, we've talked about, a little overwhelmed maybe, or don't really see the benefit to upgrading gadgets and stuff like that. But I think that also it shows its head in CES, where companies are pulling back, and you have instead Mobile World Congress for the phone guys, and we've talked about this. So last year it was clear too, and the year before for phones, but now it seems like everybody, and a lot of our meetings this year seem to be actually a lot of the press conferences like Chinese phone makers trying to make headway into the U.S. and Chinese TV companies and stuff like that, which is interesting because for a while it didn't seem so prevalent. And now, the press conferences once upon a time were probably like Samsung and LG and stuff like that. And they still are, right? Like they're going to be there with TVs and all that. But on our calendar now, it's like Honor and Huawei and these companies that previously weren't really on our radar. Now they are because they're trying to make headwinds here. So that'll be interesting, and they're making product announcements and stuff like that, at least according to the teaser. So it's just changing, as it always has.
All we can hope is that Samsung has some wonderful new device like a refrigerator with cameras in it.
Yeah.
That we can all mock. Also, hopefully fireproof, but so of course the big news of the week is that Pebble is no more.
Yeah.
And, as we already have a question here from Brazen Franco. So now that the only good smartwatch platform is gone, what do you think Fitbit will do with Pebble's IP? That's the big question. I really, what are your feelings, Todd? What are they going to do with Pebble?
I think they're going to definitely use the technology. I think that's the only reason they probably bought Pebble is for their software and their, the smarts behind their health tracking and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit of their developer base and stuff, because obviously Pebble had a bigger following, I think, in terms of like, third-party stuff for its watches. I think Fitbit's probably the bigger name. Obviously, it's been, the head of the wearable market for a while now, but I saw Pebble, and we've talked about this a little bit, as a failing company, especially now, as of, the rumors that it was going to sell like a week ago, right? And I was like, wow, like apparently this $35 million, and there was no confirmation of that yesterday or whatever that Fitbit was paying, was basically just covering Pebble's debts. And to me, that's like, how is a company, how does a company go out of business? Basically, it sounds like a liquidation, right? Like, they can't make their watches. They emailed everybody, said, we're going to give you refunds. How does that happen to a company that sets the prices? It basically knows what its profit margins are. It knows how much it's going to make off of each one, or in this case, probably lost. It knew what demand was beforehand. Like, it had all the information it needed because of Kickstarter ahead of time, and yet still failed. And then we were saying the CEO, Eric, is now joining a venture capitalist company. And personally, that's not the guy I'd want handling my money for investments in VC.
No. And let's be blunt, folks. I'm bitter about this whole thing. I was a backer, for the past couple of years. I backed the Pebble time too. I now have the joy of waiting 4 to 8 weeks for my refund.
Mm-hmm.
And you're 100% right, Todd. They knew exactly how much money they'd be taking in. I saw some comments yesterday about why any company on their third device was still taking Kickstarter. I always saw it as a promotional thing, and it would, give them some liquid capital to get the production line running. It didn't seem like a crazy idea to me. I certainly did not see this scenario happening.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with my wife about it last night. She works in business on the other side, especially for sales of companies. Actually, this Fitbit Pebble deal would have probably been something right up their alley, their company. But, and she was saying like, well, maybe Pebble was spending all this money to try to like make a bigger splash, like go above and beyond and spend money to sort of scale itself, but failed. And maybe manufacturing was more expensive than it thought, but it figured, oh, we'll take a loss because eventually in the future we're going to have the market share, and just never got there. And so that made sense to me. And I think Fitbit's probably in a better position to help scale it, but it also, obviously there is going to be no scaling of the Pebble product. I mean, the Pebble product's dead. They're not going to manufacture it anymore. It stopped yesterday. So, I don't know. To me, it almost reeks of like, and I could be totally wrong, I'm just seeing it from the outside, but it reeks of like this guy like got bored and was like, okay, I'm going to sell the company or whatever, and was like, I don't care. Because like, why? I mean, TechCrunch said that they had been offered upwards of $700 million from Citizen. And that sounds a little crazy to me, but maybe it really did happen. And then to go down to 35 million like within a year, just sounds like something really bad happened. But let's just take out the Citizen thing, like 700 million. Just to sell your company just enough to cover debts, and like does sound like it just like, oh, we're just giving up. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go become a VC. You could take my company. Like Fitbit didn't even want him on, clearly. I mean, they could have put that in a contract. Like, we want you still to lead this sector inside of Fitbit. Like, we'll have a sub brand called Pebble and you can run that. But no, they didn't do that. Like,
yeah, I mean, the fact that they are saying there's going to be no software updates, that our watches, I love this, will work for now.
Yeah, warranty's gone. Everything.
Yeah, warranty's gone. There's no software updates. Our watches eventually will stop working. And yes, I'm still wearing my Pebble Time right now. So great. I've got a device on my wrist that at some point one day I'm going to wake up and it's just not going to work.
That's what I don't understand. Like, what's not going to work? It's still going to have a Bluetooth connection to your phone and stuff, right? But
I know it makes no. I mean, that's basically all I use my watch for is notifications from my phone, so I don't have to take my phone out of my pocket every 5 minutes.
Right.
I don't get it. I really don't. And you're 100% right, Todd. They could have just said, they could have just simply launched, Pebble by Fitbit, or Pebble presented by Fitbit, however they wanted to word it. They could have brought it into the company, kept the brand going, kept those of us that were loyal fans happy. No, they just went, no, we're taking it out back like old Yeller, and we're just going to shoot it in the head.
Yeah, which sounds like it was Fitbit's decision to do that, but for some reason or another, they didn't keep the CEO on, and apparently they've only hired like 40% of the Pebble staff, and so yeah, I mean something fishy is going on there. It's very clear it would sort of run into the ground, it seems like, but it's unfortunate, and I think it's unfortunate too for the folks that literally I would almost consider you one of the lucky ones, right? Like your Pebble Time 2, you're getting a refund. What about the people who just got it?
Oh, no, I totally agree. Yeah, the people that did already receive their Pebble Time 2s, I do feel for them. They're getting the shortest end of the stick, really.
Right. Like that stinks.
Yeah, I mean, at least my Pebble Time is a year old. I am getting a refund for my Pebble Time 2. But those that already received their Pebble Time 2s,
yeah,
I hope you get a year out of it.
Yeah. I think there's like a bigger message here too. It's almost like because if you look at Android Wear, right? Like Android Wear smartwatches are great, but the companies that made them aren't building new ones, and they're kind of saying like, "Oh, well, we were just kind of testing the waters, and we're gonna wait now and see where this goes." And it's almost like you can't trust wearables at all at this point, because if they're not doing well for anybody, then then companies might just give up on them. But then you look at Apple, and like, not to single out Apple, but it's pushing forward with the Apple Watch. Tim Cook said sales are increasing, and you start to wonder, well, maybe then should I only buy from companies that are clearly invested in the space? So like Fitbit or like Apple, or I wouldn't look at Jawbone anymore because they have their own problems, and but it's definitely, we're seeing a consolidation in the industry down to or Samsung, right? Samsung's very invested with their Gear S3s that just launched now. And so I think you really, if you're going to buy them, you want to look for the companies that are continuing to pump out products, or not just pump them out, but build on products and make them better and are dedicated to it, as opposed to ones who have admitted they're just testing the waters. Or, Kickstarter, I would, we've talked about our issues with Kickstarter in the past. I would avoid that now again, because here, like Pebble was like Kickstarter's darling. And, like it owes its success to Kickstarter in a lot of ways. I think Kickstarter owes its success to Pebble, and, because you had a successful launch, and then now it's like, I don't think you can really trust these companies. Like every now and then you might get something out of it, but we've both had terrible experiences with product orders through.
Where's that battery pack?
Yeah. Sean and I ordered a battery pack back before like battery packs were a dime a dozen everywhere. Yeah. And it was like a figurine. I think we got it like a year and a half later.
18 months. Yeah.
18 months. Yeah. And I'd had like 10 battery packs at the time.
Yeah, that was not a fun experience. And I've got other Kickstarters that have never come through, and I've got other Kickstarters I'm still waiting on, and I am starting to sour on the whole Kickstarter concept, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But I see we have a lot of questions about Pebble, and we will get to those in a little bit. A couple interesting Apple stories. Just in the name of fair play, since everyone says we don't ever talk about Apple having fire issues. There are reports of iPhones catching on fire, although it seems limited to one country, which makes me suspicious. Yeah. And it seems to be China. And Todd, I'm going to let you go into detail on this, because what did I tell you before the show was going to happen during the show? UPS just pulled up outside. So I will go deal with UPS, and you can fill them in on the entire Apple China fire story.
Yeah, so there's actually two Apple stories going on at the same time right now involving the iPhone. The first involves the iPhone 6 that Sean was talking about, and that is there was a report, especially I guess BBC covered it yesterday, that China's local authorities were concerned about the iPhones catching fire after several reports, I guess. And Apple responded and said these are due to external factors, which is to say that the iPhone 6, which is the highlight of this whole thing, isn't the sort of dangerous product that we thought the Galaxy Note 7 was, or that the Galaxy Note 7 ended up being, but rather just an issue related to external factors, which is sort of a nice way of saying, well, you probably have dangerous third-party chargers or other things that are causing the phone to catch fire. So external factors could be anything, really. I mean, losing your phone in the couch cushions and having it catch fire could be an external factor. But what they're saying is that the fires are not caused by the iPhone 6, rather other things. And then the other thing that Apple's facing, Sean's back, the other thing Apple's facing is issues with the iPhone 6S, where the battery is cutting out at 30% for a lot of people. They originally said it was like a small run, but now it seems to be a lot more people, to the point where Apple then promised a software update next week. I'm guessing it's going to be iOS 10.2, since that's just in its 7th beta as of yesterday. It's 3 in a week. In any case, that's due out next week. It's supposed to have diagnostic tools and probably hope to help Apple figure out what's going on. But in the meantime, Apple has said that the iPhone 6S units that shut off at 30% are not dangerous. So they're not going to catch fires. They actually said it does that on purpose, I guess, in a safety mechanism kind of way. And if you are having that, you can get your battery replaced through Apple anyway. But maybe sit and see if there's a software update that'll fix it if you can't get it fixed quick. But anyway, so Apple's actually facing two things, is what I was saying.
Well, as I'm sure you mentioned in the China portion, apologies to everyone. UPS seems to always know when I'm recording a show. As I'm sure you said, it looks like it's third-party chargers.
Yeah, that was Apple said it was external factors, which
exactly.
It's like a nice way, not even nice way.
What have we said on the show time and time again? Don't buy third-party chargers.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what the difference was between when we were reporting on the Galaxy Note 7 fires. People were like, "Oh, but you don't cover iPhone fires," and the fact is, we do cover iPhone fires. But the difference is that there wasn't an inherent problem, and there isn't with the iPhone 6, at least according. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a widespread issue yet. But the difference is that it's not the iPhone 6 causing the problem; it's users using batteries, or in this case, chargers probably that aren't approved, and that's what causes a problem. And that is itself a problem, just as probably big of a concern, but it's not a headline maker as like a Note 7 recall would be. But Amazon and Apple actually came out a couple weeks ago and said, look, like 99% of the chargers that are branded Apple chargers sold on Amazon are fake. And another company said I think it was like 3% or even smaller. A crazy small percentage of the chargers they tested were dangerous. I mean, were safe. So a majority of them were dangerous. And so, like, odds are, if you're buying a third-party charger and you're not paying a pretty high price for it, or you're not, you think you're getting a good deal on it, you're probably buying something that's dangerous and probably, not safe. So I would say buy from companies that are well known. It doesn't have to be Apple if you don't want to pay Apple's prices, $25 or whatever. You can go to Belkin's, a big company that sells Apple accessories. But any of them, if it's a well-known company, it's safe, and it has like what do they call their MFI ratings, then you're good because it's licensed.
Well, and this isn't just a problem in smartphones. One time when I was over in England, I wanted to get a spare battery for my Canon 50D. And I went into a camera shop, and I asked them if they had any batteries. And we got to talking while they were getting it out of storage for me. And we were saying about, I asked, is this an official battery? He goes, yes, it is. He goes, the funny thing is, he goes, people go on Amazon and they buy a Canon marked battery. He goes, they bring them in here and they, ask me, why don't they work? He goes, some of them weigh half the weight of an official battery because there's only half the battery power in it. Even though, it looked, like a Canon battery, it, had the same sort of shell on it and everything else. Just because something says it's official, if you don't trust, and the thing is, Amazon itself is not selling these dangerous items. It's through their third-party system. So make sure it's a reputable dealer. I mean, if it's, say B&H selling through Amazon, you're going to be fine. But make sure you look at who's selling the item in most cases, just buy it from Apple. I know they're expensive, but just buy it from Apple. Buy it from Samsung, whoever.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, and I'm with the people that are like, but Apple products suck, because some of them do. Like Apple's chargers, you ever notice like they just fray super quick and all that kind of stuff? Like,
Oh yeah,
that's frustrating. But at least it's not like, putting your phone in danger of whatever it does that overheats and causes fires. But that's the gist of it, basically.
yeah. I've got some
fires.
lightning cables that are in less than great shape.
Yeah, right. I feel like the headphones, especially right around the 3.5 millimeter insert. Surprised they got rid of that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And real quickly, the other Apple story I want to talk about was this possibility of rentals for movies while they're still in the theater. This has been talked about before, and it was brought up in the article on TechnoBuffalo about, Sean Parker tried the same thing a while back. And they're talking like $25, $50 to rent it. At the first time that was ever brought up, I was like, there's no way I'd ever do that. Yeah, forget it. I went and saw 2 movies while I was in the UK. Both movies had exactly, and one was at an Odeon theater and one was at an AMC theater. Both of them had exactly 23 minutes of commercials and trailers before the film started.
Jeez.
And I sat there going, you are stealing my time.
Yeah. You paid for it.
Yeah, I paid for you to steal 23 minutes of my life. So in total, on my vacation, I spent 46 minutes watching commercials and trailers because I dared to go see movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like the movie-going experience anymore. I think it was fun when I was a kid, but now that I have, like, you have a TV at home, you have all the food you want at home, it's just like, or like a big screen TV, they're affordable.
Yeah, I've got a 70-inch television. At this point, I mean, yes, I'm going to go see Rogue One in the theater, but otherwise, I really don't go out to the movies anymore. I was on vacation, why not go see? I went and saw Doctor Strange. I went and saw Moana. Mm-hmm. I was on vacation. That's when you're supposed to go do things like that. But in general, I'm with you, Todd. The movie-going experience is horrible.
Yeah.
It is a horrible, horrible experience. And if Apple's able to pull something off like this, I can't wait to see what happens to attendance numbers. Now, mind you, folks, the numbers you always see when you see box office reports are total ticket sales. They are not attendance numbers. So that's why you go back and you look at, like, when they say adjusted for inflation and all that, you go back and you look at Gone with the Wind. No movie is ever going to touch Gone with the Wind based on attendance numbers. Because basically every person in the United States at that time saw that movie. It stayed in theaters for upwards of 2 years.
Wow.
That thing played and played. Well, it became a traveling road show. At that time, they would move they had limited numbers of copies. So they would move around the copies. But Gone with the Wind played for like 2 years. It was insane. Wow. And so, yes, you're seeing higher and higher box office numbers, but what you're seeing is inflated ticket prices, IMAX ticket prices, 3D ticket prices, all that's counted in. What you really want to know is attendance numbers, and attendance numbers are dropping. And,
yeah, I mean, I could see why.
Yeah, me too.
And this will help. I think, I was saying yesterday, somebody reached out on Twitter, and is there going to be 4K content? And I said, well, not till there's a new, Apple TV, or until, or maybe, go through iTunes. And the question was, well, does iTunes support 4K yet? And it doesn't, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it soon. Like Google Play literally yesterday said 4K.
Why? Okay, you're not getting a 4K experience at the theater, so why does 4K?
Why does it matter at home? I know. Yeah. I mean, I don't own a 4K TV even, so it doesn't matter to me. But I think I think people are probably looking for like the best experience possible. And if I'm going to pay $50, it better be. To me, I'm like, well, you go to the movies, you're paying $50 for 3 people or whatever, 4 people, right. And now you stay at home and you watch it. I mean, I've gotten to the point where they have like the new, how they have movies where you can buy it before you rent it? Like we were talking about the other week, I was waiting for Ant-Man, right? And I was like, screw it, I'm just going to buy it because it's 3 times the price, but, at whatever, $20, $15. But I want to watch it now. And I think that I want to watch it now mentality is really going to attract people because they're going to sit on their couches upstairs and be like, oh, this is still in theaters, but I can watch it now for $40. And then you look at your wife and you're like, okay, well, that's $20 a pop. And if we went to the theaters, we'd go out to dinner too, probably, and that's going to cost more than $40. So let's just buy it and watch it here. And I think that's where it's like a convenience factor.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. I mean, Apple's had other big dreams that have not come to fruition, so we'll just have to see what actually happens.
And there is still, the article said that it would be 2 weeks after hitting theaters. So, like, people would still go, die hard.
So it's not going to impact the big opening weekends. You're not going to see a Marvel movie drop off that much on an opening weekend because people are at home watching. No, they have to wait 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
So let's jump into questions. We have a bunch of them. From Stern Fan, Ranger needs to give you a pay raise, Sean. I agree. Are you guys covering the ZenWatch 3? I'm in the market for a new smartwatch since my OG 360 is an expletive. We'll cover it. It's just a matter of getting more information.
Getting them in. And again, it's good to hear interest from you, but it seems like in general, people have the interest in Android Wear, even from the manufacturers, has dropped off as people await sort of the software update from Google or, whatever the next plans are. Because Nougat sort of, or whatever they officially called the new update, still hasn't hit. And we don't know when it is going to hit. But it's kind of like, it's hard for us to say call that in for review. And in light of all these manufacturers, like Motorola, for example, recently, or Lenovo, saying, oh, we're going to look at the space more, and LG, for example, is not going to make more. So it's like, it would be hard for us to say, oh, this ZenWatch 3 is great, you should buy it. And then knowing sort of in the back of our minds that either ASUS could pull out and just be like, oh, you know what, that didn't really work out for us in a couple months because everybody else seems to have done that. Or, just say like, oh, there's the new Androids out, so here's our ZenWatch 4. And like, that's kind of the hard position I feel like we're in with Android Wear right now versus anything else. And really anything else boils down to, Gear and Apple Watch.
Yeah, which I am pondering buying an Apple Watch to replace my Pebble, but the pricing is insanity.
Yeah.
From Relax Like a Cat, Todd, have you bought something that you didn't return lately?
Yeah, but what was it? Well, I did. No, see, I forgot to tell you guys because we haven't podcasted, but when I got back from California, my wife was out of town for 3 days. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have anything to do. So I picked up an Oculus Rift and a GTX 1070 and played that for maybe 24 hours. And I was like, this is not worth the money. And I had the intention the whole time of returning this stuff. But when I fired it up, I was like, this is not worth it at all. I don't know. And Joey had warned me. He was like, it's not that great, man. It's really, I would say he told me to get the PSVR. But I was like, I just want to see what it's like with PC and check it out. And I didn't even end up buying any of the games because the demos I tried were just like not very exciting. So anyway, that's like the big thing that I bought in return. I haven't really bought anything yet. My wife and I were doing some stuff around the house, so money was going there. We put a fireplace thingy.
Yeah, I know that fairly. From Brazen Franco, with reports of Note 7 battery gate been caused by the lack of clearance between the battery and the phone body, what do you think of Samsung wanting to remove the jack on the S8 to make it thinner?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought, is like Samsung shouldn't make any of those drastic changes to, that it would affect the battery or the space it needs for thermal, discharges and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I want to think, and we all have to want to think, right? Like Samsung's not going to do that again, which is why rumors are suggesting the phone will launch in April instead of March this year. But, so like, yes, I'd love to see that happen just for the thinness. And if Samsung's really going to take that track, like if there's a real reason to get rid of the headphone jack, I'd love to see it. But on the other hand, it shouldn't do that if it's going to put any question on the battery performance or the risk of the phone or anything, because this happens twice, and then Samsung's in deep doo-doo.
Well, I found it super interesting because I flew on so many planes over the past couple of weeks and all that. In the airports, there were signs about if you had a Note 7, you couldn't fly with them. There were announcements made at the gates. There were announcements made on the planes. This is not an idea that is going to leave consumers' heads anytime soon.
Right.
Samsung is not going to be able to get out, is not going to be able to brush this under the rug and go, oh, no one remember that. It's everywhere in airports. And that was both in the US and the UK.
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, for me too, I've always, last several years, I think I've upgraded my one line has been for the Galaxy upgrades, and my other one has been for the iPhones for the most part. And I don't think I'm going to, I still have one upgrade left because I did the Note 7 return. And I don't think I'm going to upgrade to the S8 for a couple of months. Just to be sure, that's that was a real headache and pain in the butt.
Yeah, no, I agree. From Sachin Bahal, could we see a Pebble-like watch rise from the ashes in the next few years? I don't think so. I think the boat sailed.
Yeah, I think what we might see is Fitbit do something with the brand possibly, or build it into one of its smartwatches, something else with e-ink or whatever. But I think it's going to be a while, because if they had any intention of working with the current product, they would have kept it in manufacturing. But clearly they were losing money on it, or something, quality control was off the hook. Something was bad where Fitbit was like, we're going to buy you, but we don't want your product at all. Which, that's like, I mean, think about how crazy that is. That's like somebody buying Tesla and being like, yeah, but we're discontinuing all of your cars because they're awful. Like, nobody does that. Like, it's for the technology.
And we do have a correction from Sachin Bahal. Pebble Time 2s did not ship. Pebble 2s shipped.
Right.
So
whoever got the early, I mean, my point is somebody got their watch, one of the new generations, and they're not getting anything. And then the rest of the people, I guess, are somewhat lucky because at least you're getting a refund. But.
Yep. From David Nunez, thoughts about the Outline.com and new competition for TechnoBuffalo. I've been on vacation. I don't even know what Outline.com is.
It's Joshua Topolsky's new site, but that's not really competition for us. Totally different kind of site.
Okay. Sure. And let's see, also from David Nunez, thoughts on The Verge making their phone of the year, the iPhone 7, even though this is the most underwhelming half-baked iPhone to date. Also, Pixel exists. Thanks. Anytime we get to this time of year, and we start doing the, best of this, best of that, you have to remember every decision like this is arbitrary. It depends on the experience of the person making that list. If you go to say you come to Todd and me and you ask us what's the best phone of the year, we're probably going to have totally different ideas, and for totally different reasons, because it's based on our user case scenario. Yeah,
an argument, like the author or the team that decided probably had a good argument. I haven't read the story yet, but I trust The Verge, and I think they have good opinions, so I would say it's probably not a bad opinion. I mean,
right.
I think the point is, and I'm sure they reference it, if I were to look at the market right now, I'd say the two best phones are the Pixel and the iPhone 7, and get the one that's right for you. And I'm sure they mentioned the Pixel in there somewhere. But the fact that they had to sit down and say this one's better than the other. If somebody said, if they pick the Pixel, somebody's going to come back and be like, why wasn't it the iPhone 7? So.
Yeah, and that's what whenever somebody asks me, cab drivers, they always ask me over in the UK what I do for a living. I tell them, and then, of course, they want to talk to me about phones and all that. And so they always ask me, well, shall I go Apple or, Android? I always tell them, you have to go with what is best for you. What product best serves your uses? And that's what I tell every single person in the world. Just because you don't like iPhone, there's somebody that iPhone is perfect for. Just because you don't like Pixel, there's somebody that Pixel is perfect for. Just the way it is. It's like Marvel and DC Comics.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, the iPhone has features. Well, they both have features the other one doesn't have. But the iPhone seems to have a better balance for a wider array of people. So like the water resistance, for example, is a nice benefit to it. And I also like the stereo speakers. So like for me, if I was looking at spec for spec, I would agree with that opinion. But I mean, I carry both phones, so I don't know. You know, like that's like, it's like for us too. It's like which of your kids you like better? Like I don't know. I like them all.
From Brazen Franco, but what are your phones of the year? Well, for me, it's going to be the Jitterbug. Every year, I say the Jitterbug, and nobody ever puts it on their list. We're not ready to announce our phones of the year yet. Stay tuned. Let's see. Let's see over here. From Sachin Bahal, asking on Twitter, I have a replacement OG Pebble with a screen tearing issue. Should I still look for a Time Steel since the Time 2 is dead? Nope. Don't go anywhere near any Pebble product at this point because it's just going to be dead at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I don't think it's not even supporting the company. You're buying a product that's not supported by anybody. They don't support you.
Nope. Do not buy anything Pebble at this point. And that's not a reflection on Fitbit. That's just a reflection on Pebble watches because they are dead. Done. Let's see here. From Brazen Franco, what do you think of MS Win32 emulation on ARM-powered devices running Windows that they showcased at their press conference in China?
Super pumped about that. They did it at WinHack. I mean, this is something I've wanted forever, right? I think we've talked about it on the show, but this is great. I mean, it basically would allow Win32 apps to run on like mobile devices. I mean, an ARM processor would be a smartphone, so it's really cool. And I think there was I think Photoshop or something which showed off running on it, which is great. But you start to wonder, like, all right, there's got to be sacrifices there, in some regards. So what can I really run on my ARM, smartphone or computer? But I think it has huge, benefits probably moving forward for Continuum, which is Microsoft's, software. You plug the phone into a dock and you've got a full computer on your display. So I'm super excited for it. I just, the end of the day, it's not a Core i5, it's not a Core i7 processor. So like you're going to have some sluggishness, and I think it's going to have to be very clear what you can and cannot run. And honestly, I think that's why Microsoft probably tried to do, Windows RT at one point with, I guess it was Windows 8 at the time, because it was like very clear. Well, actually, part of the problem was it wasn't very clear, but at least it was the platform for not full-blown Windows. And now you're going to have full-blown Windows on computers that might not necessarily be able to run all the apps because they don't have the power to do so. But anyway, that's a long story. I mean, we have Windows netbooks out there with Atom processors that can't run Photoshop either, and they're just fine. So anyway, I'm really excited for it.
From David Nunez, will the mixture of Android and Chrome bring back Android tablets, or is developer support just not there? I don't know. Tablets are a weird space right now.
They really are.
Outside of the iPad, it's just not happening.
Yeah, Android tablets seem to be in limbo as, Android Wear. And then Windows are great. Like Windows tablets, when I'm looking at the Surface Book, or I have my own Dell here that has a screen that sort of folds back. I mean, it's a nice option to have on top of your computer. And I have a Chromebook, the Asus Chromebook Flip, that kind of doubles as a tablet too. But yeah, you start to wonder about where tablets are going. Anyway, what was the actual question? Android?
if the mixing of Android and Chrome was going to bring back Android tablets.
Oh, yeah. Huh. You'd hope so.
I would hope so. I still am a fan of the tablet form factor. And it's been kind of sad to see tablets not really getting any love as of late. It seems to be, and the funny thing is they still sell millions of tablets a month, and everyone's like, oh, tablets. Yeah. There's companies that would kill to sell millions of any product in a month or in a quarter, but I don't know.
Well, I think the iPad did a good job from the get-go making them dead simple. I think Android did a good job too, and it's kind of like I'm not sure what went wrong there, if anything really went wrong, besides sort of Google just not really adding features or building it out anymore.
I think
Manufacturers.
there's not enough reason to upgrade tablets.
Yeah, that's the thing too, right? Like Samsung hasn't really upgraded its Galaxy Tab. What is it? Tab S2 was the last one, maybe. It hasn't had like big upgrades. And then we saw Samsung move into like Tab Pro S, which is a Windows 10 machine, which was a different move. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's the path they're going to take at CES too. But yeah, you see, aside from, I guess, Windows 10 and iOS, the manufacturers have sort of really slowed down, especially in Android.
From Stern Fan, you guys excited with the Nokias? I cannot wait. I love their design language. I also am a huge fan of Nokia's design language. So I want to see what's going to happen there.
But the problem is that's the company that Microsoft bought.
Oh, this is so confusing.
I know, that's the problem. I don't think people are understanding. Like, they're like, "Oh, Nokia's gonna be bad." It's a very different Nokia. It's just licensing, basically. I mean, it's not just licensing. It's the same Nokia that's left over in Finland, but they are going to outsource their licensing as they already have. So, or their name, so other companies can use Nokia. Why do I want to think Foxconn did the last tablet? But my point is that that's not the company that designed the phones that the awesome Windows 10 phones or Windows Phone devices. The hardware was awesome, and before that was the devices division, which Microsoft bought and subsequently killed off. So we're just gonna have to see what comes out of Nokia now. But I'm not sure. It's you're buying it for the name.
Yeah, this is so blasted confusing. I thought it was the true Nokia. Anyway.
Well, it is the true. I mean, it's the original Nokia, but it's not the devices and services division that was sold to Microsoft.
Somebody just released a nice phone.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Anyway. Stern Fan, I like this idea. I think tablets need to be made every 2 years. Imagine the tech they could upgrade your stuff with every 2 years. If they wanted to go on a 2-year release cycle for tablets, I think that would make a lot more sense. Would they do it? Probably not.
Well, I wonder if that's what Samsung's doing. I don't know. I mean, it's hard because it's hard to even look at the market the same, because Apple could do whatever it wants with the iPad and iOS, but then you have these other companies where, they can't just make a new version of Android. I mean, they got to wait for a new version of Android, and if Google's not making it or adding the features, then they might be like, well, I'm not going to continue investing in it either.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing we're seeing with Android Wear. So.
From David Nunez, in both your opinions, do you think a Siri speaker could succeed without a major Siri overhaul? I assume he means an Echo-like device. And no.
Siri's good, but not. She's not good at conversational language as probably as Google is. The one thing I've got across all these, especially Siri and Google, is like Google Assistant on your phone. There's Google Assistant on the Pixel. There's OK Google or Google Now, whatever you want to call it, on Android phones. Then there's Google Home on Google Home, which is, I think, the Assistant, but you can't do the same things as Assistant or Google Now. So it's like, that's all crazy. And then Siri on your phone is not the same as Siri on your Apple. Well, I guess Apple Watch is pretty damn close. It's not the same as Siri on your Apple TV, that's for sure. And you're like, okay, so I can only ask one thing and the other thing. And then Alexa, at least, is like Alexa everywhere. So I think that's like the one that I like the best. And I don't know that Siri as a home would make sense yet, because you're like, well, is that going to be like a third Siri, or which Siri is it? I don't know. You know what I hate, though? Alexa these days, my Echo, I have to like yell at her to get her to do anything.
It's weird. Some days it feels like I have to yell at her, and other days I don't. It's bizarre. Real quick, couple final questions here. From Stern Fan, Google Home or Echo? Haven't heard enough good things to give me a reason to move to Google's. No, I would still stay with Echo for the time being.
Yeah, it's I was doing yesterday. Google Home's good for some stuff. Like especially if you have a Chromecast, it was like, oh, play Christmas music on my TV, and so then she starts casting Christmas music to my TV. which was pretty sweet. And I can't do that with my Echo, but for most things, and she can't do much beyond that with the Chromecast right now, besides like music and music videos. For most things, I would probably still go Echo, but Google Home is pretty good.
From David Nunes, Sean, have you checked Project Fi support in your area recently? They've expanded support a lot lately. No, it's been probably 6 months or so I should probably check that out again. And I don't see where the question went, but there was one other person that was asking if we're going to do, you and I, Todd, are going to do Google Wi-Fi, the expansions to the on-home.
Yeah.
I definitely want to give it a try.
So do I, because I have 2 routers and therefore 4 different signals throughout my house because each are broadcasting in 2.4 and 5 gigahertz.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to get down to just one network in my house. So, I'm super curious about this. Do we know a release date on those yet?
I thought it was this week or something. Am I crazy? I know we have them in the office. Or reviews started going live on websites, I think, like yesterday, 2 days ago. I swear it was. Can you buy? Sorry, I'm loading it. Buy now. Yeah, I think it's out now.
Okay, awesome. I will have to check that out.
Yeah, I need to go pick up a couple at Best Buy when I get back. I'm traveling this week. Oh man, $300. I forgot about that. That's a 3-pack.
Oh, okay.
Still.
That's not.
Yeah, that's the price of a high-end router.
Yeah, that's not horrible. Well, folks, that is going to bring this week's episode to a close. As always, we do appreciate you joining us. You can find the TechnoBuffalo Show on the iTunes store, which we do appreciate if you rate and review us. That does help out the show. You can also find us in the Google Play Store. You can subscribe via RSS feed. You can find us on Pocket Cast, or you can find us on the Stitcher app, which means you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. Until next time, I'm Sean Ani. I'm the Director of Operations. I've been joined by Executive Editor Todd Hazelton.
Bye, everybody.
Till next time, take it easy, everyone. Bye-bye.